Welcome to Vibration Architect, where ancient wisdom meets modern transformation. Have you ever noticed how your outer circumstances seem to mysteriously reflect your inner state? This is no coincidence. Your external world, your relationships, career, health, and prosperity is quite literally mirroring what's happening within you. If you don't like what you see in that mirror, today's guide will reveal why and how to change it. I'm about to share the profound universal law of correspondence that governs this inner-outer relationship, drawn from timeless metaphysical teachings that have guided seekers for centuries. Understanding this fundamental principle is your first step toward conscious reality creation. If you're ready to gain mastery over your life circumstances, rather than feeling at their mercy, subscribe now and join me in exploring the inner mirror. Introduction: the inner mirror. In the grand tapestry of existence, there exists a fundamental principle so profound, yet so elegantly simple, that once grasped, it transforms your entire perception of reality. This principle, known to ancient Hermetic philosophers as the Law of Correspondence, is captured in the timeless maxim, "As above, so below, as within, so without." It is perhaps the most practical and immediately applicable of all universal laws, for it reveals the direct relationship between your inner world and the circumstances you experience externally. The universe operates according to definite, immutable principles, laws as consistent and reliable as gravity. Just as you would not attempt to build a structure without acknowledging the law of gravity, so too is it futile to attempt constructing a fulfilling life without understanding the metaphysical laws that govern existence. The law of correspondence stands among the most powerful of these principles, offering both insight into why your life unfolds as it does, and the keys to consciously redirecting its course. Within these pages, we will journey through the inner landscapes of thought and emotion, learning to recognize how they cast reflections in your external reality. You will discover how to read the messages your environment constantly provides, how to intentionally shift your internal blueprint, and how to harmonize the various planes of your being. Most importantly, you will learn practical applications of this universal principle for both manifestation and problem-solving in daily life. This is not merely philosophical conjecture, but practical wisdom that has been tested and verified by seekers throughout the ages. The knowledge contained herein has been preserved in mystery schools, whispered in temples, and encoded in ancient texts. Not because it is meant to remain hidden, but because its power demands respectful application. Now, as consciousness evolves across our planet, these teachings emerge into the light of common understanding, offering you the opportunity to become a conscious co-creator with the universe, rather than a passive recipient of circumstances. As you turn these pages, approach the material with both an analytical mind and an open heart. For while these principles can be intellectually understood, their true power is realized through lived experience. Let us begin our exploration of the mirror that connects your inner and outer worlds, and discover how mastery of this reflection can transform every aspect of your existence. Chapter 1: The Universe Within. Recognizing the inner landscape of thoughts and emotions. Within the vastness of your being exists an entire universe, a complex, dynamic cosmos of thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and impressions that is every bit as intricate as the physical world you navigate daily. This inner universe, though invisible to ordinary sight, possesses structures, patterns, and energies that follow orderly principles. Understanding this internal landscape is the first crucial step toward mastering the law of correspondence. The metaphysical anatomy of your inner world. Your inner universe operates across multiple levels or planes of being. At its most fundamental, we can identify three primary dimensions: the mental plane, thoughts, ideas, and beliefs; the emotional plane, feelings, moods, and desires; and the ethereal plane, subtle energies that bridge your consciousness to the physical realm. These are not separate compartments, but rather interpenetrating aspects of your non-physical anatomy, constantly communicating and influencing one another. The mental plane is where conceptual reality takes form. Your thoughts, whether fleeting or persistent, create patterns of energy that begin the process of manifestation. The ancient Hermetic teachings tell us that all is mind, recognizing that thought is the primordial creative force. Within your mental landscape exist both conscious thoughts that you actively engage with and subconscious patterns that operate beneath your immediate awareness. These subconscious patterns often exert the strongest influence on your external reality, precisely because they operate continuously without the interference of your conscious mind. Your emotional plane amplifies and energizes these thought patterns. Emotions are not merely subjective experiences, but actual energetic states that radiate specific frequencies: joy, anger, peace, anxiety. Each emotional state generates distinct vibrational signatures that interact with the universe around you. The intensity of emotion determines the power behind your thoughts, acting as the fuel that propels mental images toward physical manifestation. Vibration, the foundation of inner experience. At the heart of your inner landscape lies the principle of vibration. The Kybalion teaches us that nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. This principle applies not only to physical matter but to thoughts and emotions as well. Every thought has its own vibrational frequency. Every emotion resonates at a particular rate. When you understand that your inner experiences are, at their essence, patterns of vibration, you gain tremendous insight into how they interact with and ultimately shape your external world. Consider for a moment how certain thoughts feel within your body. A thought of worry creates tension, constriction, and heaviness, a distinctly different vibrational state than a thought of appreciation, which creates expansion, lightness, and flow. These are not merely subjective experiences, but actual shifts in your energetic signature that the universe responds to accordingly. The inner observatory, becoming conscious of your mental emotional states. Most people move through life largely unaware of their inner landscape, reacting to external circumstances and allowing thoughts and emotions to arise without conscious direction. This is akin to having an infinitely powerful creative mechanism at your disposal, but never learning how to operate it intentionally. The first step toward mastery is developing what we might call the inner observatory, the capacity to witness your thoughts and emotions with awareness and discernment. Begin by creating moments throughout your day to pause and observe what's happening within. What thoughts are currently moving through your mind? What emotional tones color your experience? Are you primarily dwelling in the past, anticipating the future, or present in the moment? This simple practice of inner observation, while seemingly basic, represents a profound shift in consciousness. The separation of the observer, your awareness, from the observed, your thoughts and emotions. As you develop this observatory function, you'll notice certain patterns emerging. Perhaps you'll discover recurring thoughts of limitation that arise in specific situations. You might recognize emotional reactions that have become habitual rather than responsive to present circumstances. Without judgment or resistance, simply catalog these observations, understanding that awareness is the first step toward transformation. The structural nature of belief systems. Within your inner universe, beliefs function as organizing principles, the architectural frameworks around which your thoughts and emotions arrange themselves. These belief structures, formed through past experiences, cultural conditioning, and personal interpretations, act as filters through which you perceive reality. They determine what information you notice, how you interpret events, and what possibilities you consider available to you. The power of beliefs lies in their self-reinforcing nature. Once established, a belief seeks validation, unconsciously directing your attention toward evidence that confirms it, while filtering out contradictory information. This creates a closed loop that can maintain limiting perceptions indefinitely unless consciously interrupted. For example, a belief that money is scarce and difficult to obtain will direct your attention toward instances of financial challenge while minimizing awareness of abundance and opportunity. The emotional state generated by this belief, likely some combination of anxiety, lack, and restriction, creates a vibrational signature that resonates with similar conditions externally. Over time, This belief structure becomes so familiar that it seems to represent objective reality rather than a subjective interpretation. Understanding the structural nature of your belief systems is essential for applying the law of correspondence. These beliefs form the deepest layer of your inner universe, exerting powerful influence over both your conscious thoughts and emotional states, which in turn shape your external experiences through correspondence. The creative power of imagination. Within your mental landscape, imagination stands as perhaps the most powerful creative faculty. Far more than mere fantasy, imagination is the mind's ability to conceive of that which is not yet manifest, to envision possibilities beyond current circumstances. The great metaphysical teachers throughout history have recognized imagination as the workshop where reality is first shaped before it appears in physical form. Your imaginative faculty operates continuously, whether or not you direct it consciously. When left to wander undirected, imagination often fixates on potential problems, limitations, or worst-case scenarios, a tendency exacerbated by society's focus on risk, scarcity, and danger. This undisciplined imagination becomes a powerful creator of unwanted circumstances through the law of correspondence. However, when consciously directed, imagination becomes your greatest ally in reshaping your reality. By intentionally creating vivid mental images of desired experiences, you establish new patterns in your inner landscape that will inevitably seek correspondence in your outer conditions. This is not wishful thinking, but the practical application of universal law. The rhythmic nature of inner experience. Your inner landscape is not static but rhythmic, moving in cycles and patterns that mirror the greater rhythms of the cosmos. The Hermetic principle of rhythm tells us that everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. This principle manifests within your thoughts and emotions as natural fluctuations in clarity, energy, and perspective. Many people resist these natural rhythms, assuming something is wrong when energy ebbs or when emotional states shift. This resistance creates additional discord in the inner landscape. Understanding the rhythmic nature of consciousness allows you to work with these cycles rather than against them, recognizing periods of introspection and integration as equally valuable to periods of outward expression and clarity. Practical observation exercise. To begin working consciously with your inner landscape, establish a daily practice of inner observation. 3 times each day, morning, midday, and evening, take 5 minutes to catalogue your dominant thoughts, emotional states, and the quality of your mental energy. Notice recurring patterns without judgment, simply developing awareness of your inner terrain. As you practice this observation, pay particular attention to the quality and tone of your internal dialogue, recurring themes or preoccupations in your thinking, emotional states that arise without clear external triggers, beliefs that appear as facts rather than perspectives, the overall vibrational quality of your consciousness. Is it expansive or contractive, flowing or stagnant? This practice will gradually reveal the contours of your inner universe, making visible the subtle forces that, through the law of correspondence, shape your external reality. With this awareness established, you will be prepared to understand how these inner conditions are precisely mirrored in your outer experiences, which we will explore in the next chapter. Remember, this inner universe is not simply something you have. It is what you are at the most fundamental level. As you develop the capacity to recognize and navigate this inner landscape with consciousness and intention, you take the first essential step toward becoming a deliberate creator of your life circumstances rather than their unwitting product. Chapter 2. Reality as a reflection. How external circumstances mirror internal states. Having explored the terrain of your inner universe, with its thoughts, emotions, and belief structures, we now turn our attention to the remarkable relationship between this internal landscape and the external world you experience. The law of correspondence, encapsulated in the ancient Hermetic axiom, as within, so without, reveals that your outer circumstances are not random occurrences, but precise reflections of your inner state of being. The mirroring mechanism. The universe operates as an immense multidimensional mirror, continuously reflecting back to you the essence of your mental and emotional patterns. This reflection occurs not through some mystical process, but through the operation of natural law, as consistent and reliable as any principle in physics. Just as a physical mirror reflects light waves with perfect accuracy, the universal mirror reflects the vibrational patterns generated by your consciousness. The Kybalion teaches us that the universe is mental, suggesting that all physical manifestation begins in the realm of mind. Your thoughts and emotions are not contained solely within your physical body, but radiate outward as vibrational signatures that interact with the underlying mental substrate of reality. The universe, responding to these vibrations through the law of correspondence, organizes physical circumstances that match their essential quality and frequency. This mirroring operates with mathematical precision, though its workings often remain invisible to those unaware of the principle. Like gravity, which operates whether or not one understands or acknowledges it, the law of correspondence functions continuously in every human life, creating external conditions that correspond exactly to internal states, regardless of whether those states are consciously chosen or unconsciously maintained. The 3 levels of reflection. The mirroring of your inner world occurs across at least 3 distinct levels, each reflecting different aspects of your consciousness. Thought reflection. Your predominant thoughts, especially those charged with emotion or repeated consistently, manifest as corresponding circumstances and opportunities. If your thought patterns center around lack and limitation, you will encounter evidence of scarcity. If they focus on abundance and possibility, your external environment will present corresponding opportunities. Emotional reflection. Your habitual emotional states create a vibrational field that attracts people, situations, and experiences of matching frequency. Joy attracts joyful circumstances. Anxiety attracts anxiety-producing conditions. The emotional tone of your inner life becomes the emotional quality of your external experience. Belief reflection. At the deepest level, your core beliefs about yourself and reality establish the fundamental parameters of your experience. These beliefs, many formed before conscious memory and operating below everyday awareness, create the structural framework within which all your experiences occur. They determine not what you think about the world, but what kind of world you think exists. The holographic nature of reflection. The mirroring of your inner state is holographic in nature, meaning that the whole is contained within each part. Each area of your life, relationships, finances, health, work, creative expression, reflects aspects of your consciousness, though different domains may reflect different elements more prominently. This explains why a person might experience great success in one area while struggling perpetually in another. The corresponding internal patterns differ for each life domain. For example, your relationship experiences directly reflect your relationship with yourself and your beliefs about connection, worthiness, and love. Your financial circumstances mirror your consciousness regarding value, abundance, and receiving. Your physical health corresponds to your inner relationship with your body, your beliefs about vitality, and the emotional patterns you carry. The holographic nature of reflection means that by examining any area of your external life with awareness, you can discern precisely what is occurring within your consciousness. The outer becomes a map to the inner, providing valuable feedback about what requires attention and time factors in manifestation. While the law of correspondence operates with perfect precision, it does not always operate with immediate timing. There exists what might be called a manifestation lag, the period between the establishment of an internal pattern and its full expression in physical reality. This lag varies based on several factors. Vibrational distance. The greater the difference between your current physical circumstances and the new pattern you've established internally, the more time typically required for full manifestation. This is not because the law works imperfectly, but because physical reality has a certain momentum that gradually realigns with new vibrational inputs. Belief consistency. When new thought patterns conflict with deeper, established beliefs, manifestation may be delayed or blocked entirely. For instance, consciously affirming prosperity while subconsciously believing in your unworthiness to receive, creates conflicting vibrations that neutralize each other. Emotional intensity. Thoughts charged with strong emotion manifest more rapidly than those held with little feeling. This explains why intense fear sometimes manifests quickly as unwanted circumstances. The emotional charge accelerates the correspondence. Focus duration. Patterns held consistently over time manifest more definitively than fleeting thoughts. The concentration of mental energy on a specific pattern strengthens its signal to the universal mirror. Understanding these time factors helps explain why some circumstances in your life reflect past states of consciousness rather than your current awareness. The physical conditions you experience today often correspond to the dominant vibrations you maintained months or even years ago. This is not a flaw in the law, but simply the natural unfolding of cause and effect across different planes of existence. Collective and personal reality. A common question arises. If reality reflects individual consciousness, how do we explain shared experiences and collective circumstances? The answer lies in understanding that multiple levels of correspondence operate simultaneously. Personal reflection. Your immediate personal experiences reflect your individual consciousness most directly. The specific ways in which you encounter and interpret collective events are uniquely tailored to your vibration. Relational reflection. Your interactions with others reflect points of vibrational resonance between your consciousness and theirs. Relationships bring together individuals whose inner patterns have corresponding elements, allowing for mutual reflection and growth. Collective reflection. Broader social conditions reflect the dominant consciousness of groups, communities, and humanity as a whole. You participate in these collective manifestations based on your vibrational relationship to the collective patterns. This multi-layered reflection explains how you can share certain experiences with others while still having a unique personal encounter with those experiences. It also clarifies how you might attract specific situations that seem beyond your conscious creation. These reflect either deeper aspects of your individual consciousness or points of resonance with collective patterns. Reading the reflection. Interpreting your circumstances. Your external reality functions as a perfect feedback system, constantly showing you the contents and patterns of your consciousness. Learning to accurately read this reflection provides invaluable information for personal growth and conscious creation. When interpreting the reflections in your life, consider these guidelines. Look for patterns, rather than isolated events. Single occurrences may have multiple causes, but recurring patterns reliably indicate something consistent in your consciousness. What situations repeat in your experience? What types of people do you repeatedly encounter? These patterns reveal corresponding inner states. Notice emotional triggers. Circumstances that evoke strong emotional reactions typically reflect unresolved aspects of your consciousness. The intensity of your response indicates the significance of the reflection. Examine multiple areas of life. Sometimes a specific internal pattern manifests across various domains, appearing differently yet carrying the same essential vibration. Financial struggles, health challenges, and relationship difficulties might all reflect a single core belief in unworthiness or insufficiency. Recognize symbolic manifestation. The correspondence between inner and outer isn't always literal. Sometimes internal patterns manifest symbolically, requiring deeper interpretation. For example, persistent car problems might reflect feelings of being stalled or unable to move forward in life. Practical examples of correspondence. To illustrate the practical operation of this law, consider these common examples of inner-outer correspondence. A person maintaining thoughts of criticism and judgment toward others finds themselves frequently criticized and judged, often in precisely the areas where they judge others. An individual carrying beliefs about financial scarcity encounters repeated financial limitations, unexpected expenses, and lost opportunities, regardless of external economic conditions. Someone with deep-seated beliefs about not being heard or valued experiences situations where their input is overlooked or dismissed across various contexts. A person who internally harbors feelings of betrayal attracts relationships where trust issues become prominent. often experiencing the very betrayal they fear. An individual who maintains an inner state of gratitude and appreciation consistently encounters helpful people, timely opportunities, and fortunate circumstances. These correspondences operate not as punishment or reward, but as the natural reflection of vibrational states. The universe responds not to what you want or deserve, but to what you are, to the sum total of your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs as they generate specific vibrational patterns. The non-judgmental nature of reflection. It's essential to understand that this reflection process operates without moral judgment. The universe doesn't reflect your circumstances because you are good or bad, worthy or unworthy. It simply responds with perfect accuracy to the vibrations you emit. This understanding liberates you from guilt or shame about unwanted circumstances, while empowering you to change them through conscious inner transformation. When examining challenging reflections in your life, approach them with curious compassion rather than self-judgment. Each difficulty represents not a failure, but valuable feedback, information about aspects of your consciousness that, once recognized, can be transformed. The very awareness of the correspondence principle shifts you from victim to creator, from passive recipient of circumstances to conscious participant in their formation. Practical reflection. Exercise. To begin working consciously with the law of correspondence in your own life, engage in this reflective practice. Select 3 areas of your external experience, perhaps relationships, work, and physical health. For each area, write down the predominant patterns and circumstances you currently experience. Be specific and objective, describing the outer conditions without interpretation. Next, for each area, ask yourself, if these circumstances perfectly reflect some aspect of my inner state, what might that inner state be? Allow insights to emerge without forcing them, remaining open to discovering unconscious patterns. Finally, consider what shifts in your inner landscape might create different external reflections. What thoughts, emotions, or beliefs would naturally correspond to your desired experiences? This practice initiates a profound dialogue between your conscious awareness and the universal mirror, beginning the process of intentional transformation that we will explore more deeply in subsequent chapters. As you recognize the perfect correspondence between your inner and outer worlds, you take the essential second step toward conscious creation, understanding that to change your reality, you must first change yourself. Chapter 3. Decoding the messages. Learning to read the feedback from your environment. Now that we understand the fundamental principle that our external world reflects our internal state, we must develop the essential skill of correctly interpreting this reflection. Your environment constantly communicates with you, providing precise feedback about your consciousness through events, circumstances, interactions, and even seemingly random occurrences. Learning to decode these messages transforms your entire experience from one of apparent chaos or victimhood to one of meaningful dialogue with the universe itself. The universal language of reflection. The correspondence between inner and outer operates through a sophisticated symbolic language, a system of meaning that transcends culture, background, and personal history. This universal language communicates through patterns, synchronicities, recurring themes, and symbolic representations that, once understood, provide extraordinary clarity about your inner landscape. The Hermetic tradition teaches that this language follows predictable principles, much like mathematics or music. It is not arbitrary or random, but structured and consistent, allowing for reliable interpretation once its fundamentals are grasped. Just as you would learn to read musical notation to understand a score, you can learn to read the notation of your life circumstances to understand the composition of your consciousness. Types of environmental messages. Your external reality communicates through several distinct channels, each offering particular insights about different aspects of your inner state. Direct reflection. Sometimes the correspondence is straightforward. Your outer experience directly mirrors your inner state in obvious ways. For instance, if you harbor critical thoughts toward others, you may experience direct criticism from them in return. These reflections operate through the principle of resonance, where like attracts like. Compensatory reflection. Other times, your experience presents the opposite of your conscious thoughts, but reveals deeper, unconscious beliefs. For example, someone who consciously affirms abundance while experiencing persistent lack may be encountering a reflection of unconscious scarcity beliefs that operate more powerfully than their conscious affirmations. Amplified reflection. Certain circumstances dramatically magnify subtle aspects of your consciousness, bringing them into sharp focus. Minor irritations may manifest as significant disruptions, serving to draw your attention to otherwise overlooked patterns. This amplification is not punishment, but illumination, the universe emphasizing what requires your awareness. Symbolic reflection. Perhaps most profound are symbolic reflections, where life circumstances represent inner states through metaphor rather than literal correspondence. Physical objects, events, or situations serve as symbols for psychological or spiritual conditions. A leaking roof might symbolize boundaries that aren't holding. Electrical problems could represent issues with your personal power or energy. The body as messenger. Among the most intimate and precise reflections of your inner state is your physical body. Physical conditions and sensations provide detailed information about your consciousness, often communicating what your conscious mind has overlooked or denied. The ancient Hermetic understanding that the body is the temple of the living spirit recognizes this profound connection between consciousness and physical form. Different areas of the body correspond to different aspects of consciousness. Throat issues often relate to unexpressed truth or creativity. Digestive problems frequently reflect difficulty digesting or processing life experiences. Back problems commonly indicate feeling unsupported or carrying excessive burdens. While these interpretations shouldn't replace appropriate medical care, they provide complementary insights into the mental-emotional components of physical conditions. Pay particular attention to chronic or recurring physical symptoms. Their persistence suggests an ongoing pattern in consciousness that seeks recognition and integration. When physical conditions resist conventional treatment, there is often a corresponding mental-emotional pattern that remains unaddressed. Relationships as mirrors. Perhaps no aspect of life provides clearer reflections than your relationships with others. Each significant person in your life serves as a specialized mirror, reflecting specific aspects of your consciousness with remarkable precision. This mirroring occurs through three primary mechanisms. Direct projection. You perceive in others qualities that exist within yourself, but remain unrecognized. The traits that trigger the strongest reactions, positive or negative, typically reflect disowned aspects of your own being. What you admire in others shows you your own potential. What irritates you reveals your shadow elements. Vibrational attraction. You attract individuals who resonate with your predominant vibrational state. Someone vibrating with insecurity attracts relationships that reflect and reinforce this insecurity. One vibrating with self-worth attracts relationships that honor and support their value. Complementary patterns. You form connections with people whose patterns complement your own, creating systems where each person's unconscious material interacts with and activates the others. These complementary dynamics reveal not just individual patterns, but the structure of your relational consciousness. When decoding relationship messages, examine recurring patterns across different relationships, rather than focusing solely on individual interactions. What types of treatment do you consistently experience? What role do you frequently play? What emotional triggers appear in multiple relationships? These patterns reveal corresponding aspects of your relationship with yourself and your beliefs about connection. Reading synchronicities and coincidences. Synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that defy conventional causality, represent a particularly significant form of universal communication. When events align in ways that carry personal meaning yet seem statistically improbable, they often contain precisely calibrated messages about your path, consciousness, or current life questions. The Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, who coined the term synchronicity, recognized these occurrences as a causal connecting principles, moments when the inner and outer worlds align to reveal deeper patterns of meaning. From a Hermetic perspective, synchronicities demonstrate the principle that all is mind, showing how consciousness organizes seemingly separate events into meaningful patterns. When interpreting synchronicities, consider the timing. When did this occur in relation to your thoughts, questions, or life circumstances? The symbolism. What deeper meaning might the specific elements carry for you personally? The emotional impact. How did the synchronicity affect you emotionally? This response often contains clues to its significance. The pattern. Is this synchronicity part of a larger pattern of similar occurrences? Unlike random events, synchronicities carry a sense of significance or meaning, a feeling that something important is being communicated. This subjective sense of meaning is not a projection, but an actual recognition of the correspondence between your consciousness and external events. Persistent challenges as teachers. Recurring difficulties or challenges in your life represent particularly important messages, areas where your consciousness requires evolution or integration. Rather than merely obstacles to overcome, persistent challenges serve as precisely calibrated teachers, revealing exactly what aspects of your consciousness need attention. When the same type of situation repeats, whether financial struggles, relationship conflicts, or health issues, it indicates a stable pattern in your consciousness that generates consistent reflections. These repetitions continue until the inner pattern shifts, at which point the external reflection naturally transforms as well. The persistence of a challenge doesn't indicate failure, but rather the significance of the lesson it contains. The universe continues presenting the reflection until you decode its message and address the corresponding inner condition. Often, the most challenging circumstances contain the most valuable, evolutionary opportunities. Environmental circumstances as feedback. Your physical environment, your home, workplace, possessions, and surroundings provides continuous feedback about your consciousness. The condition, organization, and energy of these spaces reflect corresponding aspects of your inner landscape with remarkable precision. Areas of clutter or disorganization typically correspond to mental emotional confusion or unprocessed experiences. Broken items often reflect neglected aspects of self or interrupted processes of growth. The overall aesthetic and energy of your space, whether uplifting or depleting, expansive or constrictive, mirrors the predominant quality of your consciousness. Even the location where you live carries significance, reflecting aspects of your consciousness through its geographical, cultural, and energetic qualities. People are naturally drawn to locations that resonate with their current state of consciousness, or that offer exactly what their evolution requires. Distinguishing personal from collective reflections. As mentioned in the previous chapter, we participate in both personal and collective reflections. When decoding environmental messages, it's important to discern which elements reflect your individual consciousness and which represent your participation in collective patterns. Personal reflections typically appear consistently across different contexts in your life, trigger significant emotional responses, relate to persistent personal themes or challenges, change when your consciousness shifts. Collective reflections generally affect many people simultaneously, connect to broader social, cultural, or global patterns, persist regardless of individual consciousness shifts, contain lessons that apply at both personal and collective levels, even within collective. Circumstances, your specific experience of those conditions reflects your individual consciousness. Two people experiencing the same external event, whether a natural disaster, economic downturn, or cultural shift, will encounter it in ways that precisely reflect their inner states. The intelligence behind the mirror. When working with the law of correspondence, it's valuable to recognize that the mirroring process operates with remarkable intelligence and precision. The reflections you encounter are not random or mechanical, but calibrated exactly to your current level of awareness, presenting exactly what you're ready to recognize and integrate. This intelligence has been described in various traditions as divine mind, universal intelligence, or cosmic consciousness, the fundamental awareness that permeates all existence. The Kybalion tells us that the all is mind, the universe is mental. This universal mind orchestrates reflections with perfect wisdom, ensuring that each person encounters precisely the circumstances that best serve their evolution. Understanding this intelligent quality of reflection transforms how you relate to your experiences. Rather than victims of random events, we become participants in a meaningful dialogue with universal intelligence, a conversation conducted through the language of circumstances, relationships, and synchronicities. Practical techniques for decoding messages. To develop your ability to accurately interpret environmental feedback, practice these decoding techniques. The journalist's questions. When examining a significant situation or pattern, ask the classic questions: what, where, when, how, why, who. This investigative approach reveals the specific qualities of the reflection and their potential meanings. The mirror. Question. For any challenging circumstance, ask, if this perfectly reflects some aspect of my consciousness, what might that aspect be? Allow intuitive answers to arise without forcing intellectual interpretations. Pattern recognition. Look for recurring themes across different areas of life. When similar situations appear in relationships, work, and health, they likely reflect a core pattern in consciousness that manifests in multiple domains. Symbolic interpretation. Practice viewing situations metaphorically rather than literally. Ask what a particular circumstance might represent symbolically. A car breakdown, for instance, might symbolize a need to pause your forward momentum or address maintenance of your physical vehicle. Body. Emotional tracking. Notice your emotional responses to situations, as these often provide clues to their deeper meaning. Strong reactions typically indicate significant reflections, pointing to aspects of consciousness that require attention. Synchronicity. Journaling. Record meaningful coincidences and their context, looking for patterns or messages that emerge over time. This practice develops your recognition of the subtle language of correspondence. Decoding. Exercise. Reading your current life situation. To apply these principles immediately, select a significant current life situation, preferably one that feels challenging or persistent. On paper or in a journal, explore the following questions. Describe the situation objectively, without interpretation or judgment. Include only observable facts and events. Identify any patterns related to this situation. Has something similar occurred before? Are there connections to other areas of your life? Consider what this situation might be reflecting about your predominant thoughts, emotional patterns, beliefs and assumptions, unacknowledged needs or desires. Explore possible symbolic meanings of specific elements in the situation. What might they represent metaphorically? Notice your emotional response to this situation. What specific feelings arise, and what might they reveal about its significance? If this situation contains a message or lesson perfectly designed for your growth, what might that message be? This exercise initiates a conscious dialogue with your environmental reflections, developing your ability to accurately read the feedback the universe continuously provides. As you practice this decoding process, you'll discover that life's challenges transform from seemingly random obstacles into meaningful communications, precise reflections offering exactly the information you need for conscious evolution. With this understanding of how to read the messages in your environment, we are now prepared to explore how you can intentionally shift your inner blueprint to create different external reflections, the subject of our next chapter. Chapter 4. Shifting the inner blueprint. Changing thoughts and beliefs to alter the reflection. Having explored how to recognize and interpret the reflections in your external reality, we now arrive at the transformative heart of our work with the Law of Correspondence, the deliberate reshaping of your inner blueprint to create different external manifestations. If your outer world faithfully mirrors your inner state, then the most direct path to changing your circumstances lies in changing yourself. This chapter explores the precise methods for conducting this inner transformation. Understanding the blueprint structure. Your inner blueprint is a complex, multi-layered template that determines what manifests in your experience. Like an architect's blueprint that guides the construction of a building, your inner template directs the formation of your external reality. This blueprint consists of several interconnected levels. Core beliefs, the foundational assumptions about reality, yourself, and what's possible that form the deepest layer of your consciousness. Mental patterns, the habitual thought processes, interpretations, and cognitive frameworks through which you filter experience. Emotional states, the recurring feeling tones and emotional habits that energize your thoughts and beliefs. Vibrational signature, the composite energy pattern created by the interaction of your beliefs, thoughts, and emotions. Your overall frequency of consciousness. Each level influences and reinforces the others, creating a stable system that generates consistent reflections in your external reality. To create lasting change in your circumstances, you must address each level of this blueprint, working from the deepest foundation of belief to the surface expressions of thought and emotion. The blueprint's resistance to change. Before exploring specific transformation techniques, it's essential to understand why changing your inner blueprint can be challenging. The mind naturally resists alteration of established patterns, creating what might be called psychic inertia, the tendency of consciousness to maintain its current state. This resistance manifests through several mechanisms. Confirmation. Bias. Your perception automatically filters for evidence that confirms existing beliefs while discounting contradictory information. Identity attachment. Beliefs become integrated into your sense of self, making their transformation feel threatening to your very identity. Neurological entrenchment. Recurring thought patterns create neural pathways that become increasingly automatic and require conscious effort to redirect. Emotional comfort. Even limiting patterns offer the comfort of familiarity, while new patterns initially create discomfort regardless of their positive nature. These resistance mechanisms don't indicate failure or weakness, but represent the natural functioning of consciousness. Understanding them allows you to work with, rather than against, the mind's tendencies, creating change that harmonizes with your psychological structure rather than fighting it. Identifying the current blueprint. The first step in transformation involves clearly identifying the contents of your current inner blueprint. This requires honest self-examination and willingness to recognize patterns you may have previously overlooked or denied. The reflections in your external reality, as discussed in previous chapters, provide invaluable guidance for this exploration. Begin by examining the consistent patterns in your life circumstances. What situations repeatedly appear? What limitations consistently manifest? What types of relationships or opportunities regularly present themselves? Each pattern points to a corresponding element in your inner blueprint. Next, explore the thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that align with these external patterns. What do you habitually think about yourself and your capabilities? What emotional states do you frequently experience? What core assumptions govern your perspective on life? Be particularly attentive to beliefs that present themselves as obvious truths rather than perspectives, as these often exert the strongest influence. Record these observations without judgment, approaching them with the objectivity of a scientist documenting findings. The goal is not self-criticism, but clear recognition of the current state of your inner blueprint, the necessary starting point for intentional transformation. Transforming core beliefs. Core beliefs form the foundation of your inner blueprint, exerting tremendous influence over your thoughts, emotions, and ultimately, your external circumstances. Transforming these beliefs requires a systematic approach. Identification. Uncover the specific beliefs generating your current reflections. Often these exist below conscious awareness and must be revealed through careful examination of your thoughts, emotions, and external patterns. Beliefs commonly appear disguised as statements of fact. That's just how life works, or that's just how I am. Origin recognition. Determine when and how each belief formed. Many limiting beliefs originate in childhood experiences, cultural conditioning, or misinterpreted events. Understanding a belief's origin reduces its authority and makes it more accessible to change. Evidence examination. Consciously analyze the evidence supporting and contradicting each belief. This process reveals that most limiting beliefs persist not because of their accuracy, but because of selective attention to confirming evidence. Alternative creation. Formulate alternative beliefs that better serve your evolution while remaining credible to your current consciousness. Effective replacement beliefs acknowledge current reality while opening possibilities for growth. Rather than "I am wealthy," which might contradict current experience too sharply, consider "I am developing a prosperous relationship with money," or "I recognize and receive abundance in increasing measure." Energetic installation. Emotional energy is essential for installing new beliefs. Merely intellectually accepting an idea doesn't alter your blueprint. The new belief must be energized with feeling and repeated frequently enough to establish new neural pathways. Visualization, emotional resonance practices, and consistent affirmation all support this installation process. Action alignment. New beliefs must be supported by corresponding actions. Acting in ways that demonstrate and reinforce your new perspective accelerates its integration into your blueprint. These belief-congruent actions provide your consciousness with tangible evidence of the new pattern. The transformation of core beliefs represents the most profound level of inner change, creating shifts that ripple through your entire consciousness and consequently your external reality. While this process requires persistence, the results are far more lasting than superficial changes to thoughts or behaviors alone. Reconstructing mental patterns. While beliefs provide the foundation, your habitual mental patterns, the ways you typically think, interpret, and focus your attention, form the architectural structure of your inner blueprint. Transforming these patterns involves thought observation. Develop the capacity to witness your thoughts without immediately identifying with them. This creates the necessary space for conscious choice rather than automatic reaction. Regular meditation practice significantly enhances this ability. Pattern interruption. When you notice habitual thought patterns that don't serve your evolution, deliberately interrupt them. This might involve a physical gesture, a verbal cue, stop, or simply redirecting your attention. Each interruption weakens the automatic nature of the pattern. Question formulation. The questions you habitually ask shape your mental focus and consequently your experience. Transform limiting questions, "Why does this always happen to me?" into expansive ones, "What opportunity might this situation contain?" Your mind faithfully answers whatever questions you pose to it. Language reconstruction. The specific words and phrases you use, both internally and externally, shape your perception and manifestation. Replace diminishing language, "I'll try, hopefully, but," with empowering alternatives, "I will, certainly, and." This linguistic shift gradually reconstructs your thought patterns. Attention direction. Consciously direct your attention toward evidence of what you wish to experience, rather than what you fear or wish to avoid. What you focus on expands in your awareness and, through correspondence, in your external reality. Imagination cultivation. Systematically develop your capacity to imagine desired states and circumstances with sensory richness and emotional intensity. Regular visualization practice strengthens the blueprint of what you wish to create externally. These mental pattern reconstructions create the intermediate level of blueprint transformation, translating your revised beliefs into specific thought forms that will manifest through correspondence. Transforming emotional states' emotions provide the energetic force that powers your manifestations. Without emotional energy, thoughts and beliefs remain largely theoretical, lacking the vibrationary power necessary for physical manifestation. Transforming your emotional patterns involves emotional awareness. Develop the capacity to recognize and name your emotional states as they arise without suppression or excessive identification. This awareness creates the possibility of emotional choice rather than automatic reaction. Feeling permission. Allow yourself to fully experience emotions as they arise, recognizing that resistance to feelings actually prolongs and intensifies them. This permission paradoxically enables emotions to move through your system rather than becoming trapped. Emotional transmutation. Learn to shift emotional states deliberately, not through suppression, but through alchemical transformation of their energy. Techniques like conscious breathing, movement, and sound can facilitate this transmutation. State generation. Develop the ability to generate desired emotional states independently of external circumstances. This might involve recalling past experiences, using physical postures, employing specific visualizations, or listening to particular music to evoke specific feeling states. Vibrational maintenance. Establish practices that support the consistent maintenance of elevated emotional states, creating a stable, high-frequency field that attracts corresponding circumstances. Regular gratitude practice, appreciation journaling, and joy-generating activities all support this maintenance. This emotional transformation completes the full spectrum of blueprint revision, ensuring that your new beliefs and thought patterns receive the energetic power necessary for external manifestation. Working with resistance and setbacks, the process of shifting your inner blueprint inevitably encounters resistance, both from within your own consciousness and from the momentum of existing manifestations. Understanding and working skillfully with this resistance is essential for successful transformation. Expect backlash. When you begin changing established patterns, your psyche often produces what might be called a homeostatic backlash, an intensification of old patterns attempting to restore the familiar equilibrium. Recognize this as a natural part of the transformation process rather than evidence of failure. Address subconscious objections. Your subconscious mind may resist new patterns due to perceived threats or conflicts with existing beliefs. Dialogue with these objections through journaling, meditation, or other contemplative practices, addressing the underlying concerns rather than fighting against them. Implement gradual shifts. While dramatic transformations occasionally occur, lasting change typically happens through consistent small shifts that don't trigger overwhelming resistance. Gradually adjust your beliefs, thoughts, and emotions in the desired direction rather than demanding immediate, complete transformation. Maintain physical support. Your physical body plays a crucial role in maintaining your vibrational state. Adequate rest, nutrition, hydration, and movement all support your capacity to establish and maintain new patterns in your inner blueprint. Create environmental alignment. Surround yourself with external influences that support your desired patterns. Carefully choose media, environments, and relationships that reinforce rather than undermine the new blueprint you're establishing. Practice non-attachment. Paradoxically, intense attachment to specific outcomes often blocks their manifestation by creating energetic constriction. Practice holding your intentions with focused attention, yet minimal attachment, allowing the universe to manifest your desires in ways that might exceed your specific expectations. The timeline of transformation. When working with the law of correspondence to change your reality, understanding the typical timeline of manifestation helps maintain appropriate expectations and persistence. Inner shift. The process begins with the conscious decision to change your inner state, followed by consistent practice of the techniques described above. This phase focuses entirely on internal transformation rather than looking for external results. Energetic shift. As your inner pattern stabilizes, your vibrational signature changes, creating a different relationship with the universal field. During this phase, you may notice subtle energetic shifts, changes in how you feel, in your sense of possibility, or in your perception of existing circumstances. Synchronistic indicators. Before full manifestation occurs, the universe often provides synchronistic signs or preliminary reflections of your new pattern. These might appear as meaningful coincidences, unexpected opportunities, or small experiences that align with your desired state. Manifestation testing. The new pattern typically manifests first in temporary or partial ways. Situations that reflect your desired state, but don't yet represent its complete or permanent establishment. These preliminary manifestations test your readiness and provide opportunities to strengthen your new vibration in response to actual experiences. Stable manifestation. Finally, as your new inner blueprint becomes firmly established, corresponding external conditions stabilize, creating the new normal of your experience. This stabilization may occur suddenly or gradually, depending on the specific patterns involved and the degree of change from previous states. Understanding this progression helps maintain motivation during periods when external circumstances haven't yet caught up with internal changes. The law of correspondence operates with perfect precision, but not always with the immediate timing our minds might prefer. The compound effect of blueprint shifting. One of the most powerful aspects of working with your inner blueprint is the compound effect that occurs over time. Small, consistent shifts in your consciousness create increasingly significant changes in your external reality as they interact and reinforce one another. This compounding effect operates through several mechanisms. Positive feedback loops. Initial positive manifestations provide evidence for your new beliefs, strengthening them and thus generating further positive manifestations in an accelerating cycle. Pattern recognition. As you become more skilled at identifying and shifting inner patterns, the process becomes increasingly efficient, allowing for more rapid and precise transformations. Vibrational momentum. Each manifestation of your new pattern creates energetic momentum, making subsequent similar manifestations more likely and more immediate. Dimensional expansion. As your consciousness evolves through consistent inner work, you gain access to increasingly subtle and powerful dimensions of manifestation, expanding the scope and impact of your creative capacity. This compound effect explains why those who have worked consistently with these principles for years often demonstrate seemingly miraculous manifestation abilities. The progression follows natural law rather than magical thinking. The mathematical accumulation of small, consistent shifts in consciousness. Practical blueprint shifting exercise. To begin immediately applying these principles, engage in this comprehensive blueprint shifting practice. Select a specific area. Choose one aspect of your life where you wish to create different reflections. Begin with something meaningful yet not overwhelmingly charged. Perhaps a specific relationship dynamic, a particular aspect of your work, or a certain facet of your self-expression. Identify current patterns. Examine the current reflections in this area with complete honesty. Document the specific conditions, experiences, and limitations that consistently appear. Uncover corresponding inner states. For each external pattern identified, ask what inner state might generate this reflection. Explore your beliefs, thoughts, and emotional patterns related to this life area, writing them down without judgment. Create your new blueprint. Design the inner state that would naturally correspond to your desired external reality. Define the core beliefs that would support this reality, the thought patterns that would align with it, the emotional states that would energize it, the overall vibrational quality it would embody. Develop your daily practice. Create a specific daily routine to install and strengthen this new blueprint, including morning affirmation of your new beliefs, midday check-in to redirect thoughts as needed, evening visualization of both your inner state and its external correspondence, physical practices that support your desired vibration. Implement correspondence awareness. Throughout your day, practice conscious awareness of the correspondence between your inner and outer states. When you notice external reflections of old patterns, use them as reminders to shift your inner state rather than focusing on changing the external directly. Document your journey. Keep a journal of both your inner practices and the external shifts that begin to appear. This documentation provides valuable feedback about what's working and reveals the often subtle initial changes that might otherwise go unnoticed. Engage in this practice consistently for at least 30 days, recognizing that you are literally reconstructing the template from which your reality manifests. While some reflections may shift quickly, the most profound and stable transformations typically emerge through persistent practice over time. As you work with shifting your inner blueprint, you'll discover that the most powerful transformation occurs not through struggling to change external conditions directly, but through the conscious evolution of your inner state. The outer naturally corresponds to the inner, allowing you to create change from the inside out, the most efficient and lasting approach to transformation. In our next chapter, we'll explore the specific role of emotional resonance in this process, understanding how to align your feeling state with your desired experiences to accelerate their manifestation through the law of correspondence. Chapter 5. Emotional Resonance. Aligning feelings with desired outer experiences. While the previous chapter explored the comprehensive process of shifting your inner blueprint, we now focus specifically on the emotional dimension of this work, perhaps the most powerful, yet frequently overlooked aspect of conscious creation through the law of correspondence. If thoughts provide the architectural design of your manifestations, emotions supply the energy that brings them to life. Understanding and mastering emotional resonance dramatically accelerates the manifestation process, creating a vibrational alignment that magnetically attracts corresponding external experiences. The vibrational nature of emotions. Emotions are not merely subjective experiences, but actual energetic states that generate specific frequencies within your being. The etymology of the word emotion reveals this fundamental nature. It derives from the Latin emovere, meaning to move out or to stir up. Emotions literally move energy through your system and outward into the universal field, creating waves of vibration that interact with your environment through the law of correspondence. The Hermetic principle of vibration, as described in the Kybalion, states that nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Your emotional states represent the most palpable and powerful vibrational signatures you generate. While thoughts create specific patterns, emotions determine the intensity and magnetic power of those patterns. A thought held without emotional charge remains relatively passive in terms of manifestation. The same thought infused with strong emotion becomes a potent creative force. Each emotional state generates a distinctive vibrational signature. Lower frequency emotions, states such as fear, anger, shame, guilt, and despair, produce dense, contracted vibrational patterns that correspond to experiences of limitation, conflict, and scarcity. Mid-range emotions, states such as contentment, optimism, interest, and comfort, create more expanded vibrations that correspond to experiences of adequacy, improvement, and gradual growth. Higher frequency emotions, states such as joy, appreciation, love, compassion, and inspiration, generate highly expanded, coherent vibrations that correspond to experiences of abundance, harmony, and seemingly miraculous positive manifestations. These emotional frequencies are not merely conceptual, but can be measured through advanced biofeedback technologies that detect heart rate variability, electromagnetic field coherence, and other physiological indicators of emotional states. Research by the HeartMath Institute and similar organizations has scientifically documented the distinctive energetic signatures of different emotions and their effects on both the individual and their environment. Emotions as manifestation fuel. In the alchemy of creation through correspondence, emotions serve as the catalytic force that accelerates manifestation. This catalytic function operates through several mechanisms. Vibrational amplitude. The intensity of an emotion determines the strength of its signal to the universal field. Strong emotions, whether positive or negative, generate powerful manifestations more rapidly than mild or neutral states. Resonant attraction. Your emotional state creates a specific frequency that attracts corresponding external conditions through resonance, the principle by which objects vibrating at the same frequency naturally draw together. Perception. Filtering. Emotions determine what aspects of reality you notice and how you interpret them, effectively filtering your perception to align with your emotional frequency. This filtered perception then reinforces corresponding beliefs and thoughts. Physiological alteration. Different emotional states create distinctive biochemical conditions in your body, affecting your energy levels, cognitive function, intuitive access, and behavioral tendencies, all of which influence how you interact with your environment and what possibilities you can recognize or create. Field effect. Your emotional state generates an electromagnetic field that extends beyond your physical body, directly influencing the energy fields of others and even affecting physical matter at subtle levels, a phenomenon documented in Princeton University's Global Consciousness Project and similar research initiatives. Understanding these mechanisms reveals why two people with similar thoughts but different emotional states create vastly different manifestations. The person who intellectually affirms abundance but emotionally resonates with scarcity will experience very different results than one whose emotions genuinely align with their abundance affirmations. The emotional feedback loop. A crucial aspect of working with emotional resonance involves understanding the cyclical relationship between your emotions and your external experiences. This relationship forms a feedback loop that can either perpetuate limiting patterns or accelerate positive creation. Your emotional state generates a specific vibration. This vibration attracts corresponding external experiences through the law of correspondence. These experiences then trigger emotional responses based on your interpretation of them. These emotions generate further vibrations, continuing the cycle. This loop explains why many people remain trapped in repetitive patterns despite intellectual understanding of manifestation principles. Breaking this cycle requires the ability to generate emotions independently of current circumstances, to feel prosperity despite apparent lack, to feel confidence despite past failures, to feel peace despite external chaos. The masters of all wisdom traditions have emphasized this capacity for emotional self-determination as the key to spiritual power. As Jesus taught, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." This statement directly addresses emotional resonance, feeling the fulfillment of your desire in the present moment rather than projecting it into a future that perpetually remains beyond reach. Emotional coherence and manifestation power. Not all emotional states possess equal manifestation power, even at the same intensity level. Research in consciousness studies reveals that emotional coherence, the harmonious alignment of your various emotional currents, dramatically increases your manifestation capacity. This coherence occurs when your conscious and subconscious emotions align rather than conflict. Your emotional state maintains stability rather than rapidly fluctuating. Your various subtle bodies, mental, emotional, ethereal, generate compatible vibrations. Your emotional response remains consistent across different life situations. This coherence creates what might be called vibrational clarity, a pure, unmixed frequency that communicates precisely to the universal field. Incoherence, by contrast, sends mixed signals that generate confused, delayed, or partial manifestations. Developing emotional coherence involves addressing contradictory feelings, integrating shadow aspects, healing emotional wounds, and establishing practices that support vibrational stability. This integration work often represents the missing element for those who understand manifestation principles intellectually, but struggle to experience consistent results. The emotional basis of reality, perception. Your emotional state fundamentally determines how you perceive reality, creating what neuroscientists call state-dependent perception. Different emotional states literally activate different neural networks, causing you to notice, remember, and interpret information in ways that reinforce your current emotional frequency. When experiencing fear, for instance, your perceptual system automatically highlights potential threats while filtering out evidence of support or opportunity. When experiencing appreciation, the same system highlights blessings and possibilities while de-emphasizing limitations. These perceptual differences aren't just psychological, but involve actual changes in sensory processing, attention direction, and memory access. This understanding reveals why simply trying to think positively while maintaining a negative emotional state produces limited results. Your emotions determine which thoughts can be energetically sustained and which perceptual evidence will be available to support them. Emotional resonance must precede or at least accompany cognitive change for lasting transformation to occur. The difference between emotional resonance and emotional reactivity. An essential distinction exists between emotional resonance, the conscious generation and maintenance of specific feeling states regardless of external triggers, and emotional reactivity, which allows external circumstances to determine your internal state. This distinction separates masters from victims in the application of the law of correspondence. Emotional reactivity. External events trigger automatic emotional responses. Emotions fluctuate based on changing circumstances. Inner state depends on outer conditions. Creates a victim relationship to life experiences, perpetuates existing manifestation patterns. Emotional resonance. Consciously chosen emotional states maintained regardless of circumstances. Stable emotional frequency despite external fluctuations. Outer conditions respond to inner state rather than determining it. Creates a creator relationship to life experiences. Transforms manifestation patterns. Developing emotional resonance capacity requires recognizing the difference between reacting to what is and resonating with what you choose to create. This recognition shifts you from passenger to driver in your life journey, from receiver to generator of your emotional reality. Techniques for emotional mastery and alignment. Developing the ability to consciously generate and maintain specific emotional states represents one of the most valuable skills for working with the law of correspondence. The following techniques support this emotional mastery. Emotional awareness practice. Before attempting to change emotional states, develop precise awareness of your current feelings without judgment or resistance. Several times daily, check in with your emotional state, naming it specifically rather than using vague terms like good or bad. This awareness creates the necessary foundation for intentional shifting. Physiological state management. Recognize that emotions have both psychological and physiological components. Deliberately altering your physiology through breathing patterns, posture, facial expression, and movement directly influences your emotional state. For instance, deep diaphragmatic breathing, an upright posture, and a gentle smile naturally shift your nervous system toward more resourceful emotional states. Emotional recall. Anchoring. Identify past experiences where you naturally felt the emotions you wish to generate. Mentally revisit these experiences in vivid sensory detail, then create a physical anchor, such as touching thumb to finger or pressing a specific point, while fully feeling the desired emotion. With practice, activating this anchor can reliably trigger the associated emotional state. Appreciation. Immersion. Of all emotional practices, systematic appreciation generates perhaps the most powerful manifestation results. Spend 5 to 10 minutes daily in focused appreciation, moving beyond general gratitude to specific sensory-rich appreciation of particular aspects of your life. This practice immediately shifts your vibrational frequency towards states that attract positive correspondences. Emotional transmutation. Learn to transform rather than suppress challenging emotions. When difficult feelings arise, acknowledge them fully, locate their physical sensation in your body, breathe into that location, and gradually redirect the energy upward into more expanded states. This alchemical process preserves the power of the emotion while transforming its quality. Resonant visualization. Rather than merely visualizing desired outcomes, cultivate the specific emotional states that would accompany their fulfillment. Feel the security of financial abundance, the joy of vibrant health, or the peace of harmonious relationships as present realities rather than future possibilities. Maintain these feeling states for at least 68 seconds, the minimum time required to begin a manifestation sequence according to certain consciousness research. Heart coherence practice. Based on HeartMath research, this technique involves focusing attention on the heart area while breathing slowly and deeply, then activating a regenerative emotion such as appreciation or care. This practice creates measurable coherence in your heart's electromagnetic field, which extends several feet beyond your body and directly influences your environment. Music and sound resonance. Utilize music and sound that naturally evokes your desired emotional states. Create playlists specifically designed to generate vibrational alignment with what you wish to manifest, using them during visualization or throughout your day to maintain emotional coherence. Addressing common emotional blocks to manifestation. Several prevalent emotional patterns commonly block effective manifestation through correspondence. Recognizing and addressing these specific patterns can dramatically accelerate your results. unworthiness. Perhaps the most fundamental block involves feeling undeserving of your desires. This emotional frequency contradicts the very fulfillment you seek, creating a perpetual push-pull relationship with your manifestations. Address unworthiness by practicing unconditional self-acceptance, recognizing your intrinsic value beyond achievements or circumstances. Attachment, desperation. Paradoxically, intense emotional attachment to specific outcomes often blocks their manifestation by creating a frequency of lack and desperation. This attachment communicates to the universe that you don't have what you desire, reinforcing its absence. Practice detached alignment, maintaining the emotional resonance of your desire while releasing attachment to exactly how or when it manifests. Doubt, disbelief. The emotional frequency of doubt directly contradicts the vibrational pattern of your desires, creating mixed signals that weaken manifestation. Address doubt not by fighting against it, but by honestly acknowledging where it exists, then gradually building evidence and experiences that naturally dissolve it from within. Future orientation. When your emotional relationship with your desires places them perpetually in the future, you create a vibrational pattern that keeps them continuously out of reach. Practice the emotional art of living from the end, feeling your desires as present accomplishments rather than future aspirations. Incongruent deservingness. Some individuals maintain conflicting emotional messages about what they deserve, consciously feeling worthy of abundance while subconsciously feeling worthy of struggle. This incongruence creates confused manifestations that partially reflect both frequencies. Integration work, shadow healing, and emotional congruence practices help align these conflicting deserving levels. The relationship between desire and manifestation. A sophisticated understanding of emotional resonance recognizes the complex relationship between desire and manifestation. While desire initiates the creative process, its emotional quality determines whether it accelerates or impedes manifestation. Desire from lack. When desire arises from a feeling of absence or insufficiency, it contains within it the vibrational signature of what you're trying to overcome. This creates a mixed signal, simultaneously reaching for what you want while resonating with its absence. Desire from wholeness. When desire arises from a sense of creative expansion rather than compensating for lack, it generates a clean vibrational signal that attracts rapid manifestation. This form of desire feels joyful and playful rather than desperate or needy. Learning to distinguish these forms of desire and consciously cultivating desire from wholeness represents an advanced aspect of emotional resonance work. The paradoxical practice involves wanting what you desire while simultaneously feeling complete without it, a state that certain Eastern traditions call desireless desire. Emotional resonance in daily life. Translating these principles into daily practice involves establishing consistent habits that generate and maintain your desired emotional resonance throughout your day. Morning resonance setting. Begin each day by deliberately establishing your emotional frequency before engaging with external activity. This might involve appreciation practice, heart coherence techniques, inspirational reading, music, movement, or visualization, whatever reliably generates your desired state. Trigger preparation. Identify situations in your day likely to trigger reactive emotions that don't serve your manifestation goals. Prepare specific resonance maintenance strategies for these triggers, deciding in advance how you'll respond emotionally rather than react automatically. Environmental curation. Consciously design your physical environment to support your desired emotional frequency. Colors, objects, images, sounds, scents, and spatial arrangements all influence your emotional state and can be selected to reinforce your manifestation goals. Resonant movement. Throughout your day, move your body in ways that express and reinforce your desired emotional state. Your physical movement both reflects and influences your emotional frequency, creating a powerful reinforcement loop when consciously aligned. Energetic boundaries. Establish clear boundaries with people and situations that consistently pull your emotional state into frequencies that don't serve your intentions. This doesn't necessarily require avoiding such influences, but developing the capacity to maintain your resonance despite them. Resonance reset practices. Develop brief techniques you can use throughout your day to quickly reset your emotional state when you notice it has shifted. These might include specific breathing patterns, physical gestures, mental images, or sound cues that rapidly restore your desired resonance. Evening integration. Conclude each day with practices that integrate your emotional experiences and establish the resonance state you wish to maintain during sleep, a particularly powerful manifestation period due to reduced conscious resistance. Practical emotional resonance exercise. To immediately apply these principles, engage in this comprehensive emotional resonance practice. Identify your target resonance. Select the specific emotional state that would naturally correspond with your desired manifestation. Be precise. Move beyond general terms like good or positive to specific qualities like confident security, expansive joy, or peaceful certainty. Create your resonance profile. For your target emotional state, document how this state feels in your body, specific sensations and locations, what posture, breathing pattern, and facial expression accompany it. What thoughts naturally arise when in this state? What past experiences reliably evoked this state? What environmental elements, music, colors, etc., support it? Design your daily resonance practice. Morning, 10-15 minutes of deliberate resonance generation. Throughout the day, hourly, 30-second resonance check-ins. Environmental triggers. Place objects or images that remind you of your target resonance where you'll regularly encounter them. Evening, 10-minute resonance restoration before sleep. Address contradictory emotional patterns. Identify which emotions most commonly pull you away from your target resonance. Determine their triggers, messages, and patterns. Develop specific strategies for transmuting these emotions when they arise. Track your resonance and reflections. Daily, rate your success at maintaining your target emotional state. 1 to 10. Document any external reflections that correspond to your emotional frequency. Note which practices most effectively generate and maintain your desired state. Commit to this practice for at least 21 days, the minimum period typically required to establish new emotional habits. During this time, focus more on the quality of your emotional state than on external results, recognizing that the law of correspondence operates with perfect precision, but sometimes with delayed timing. As you develop mastery of emotional resonance, you'll discover that it represents perhaps the most direct and powerful application of the law of correspondence. While beliefs provide the foundation and thoughts the structure of your manifestations, emotions supply the energy that brings them to life. By becoming a conscious generator of your emotional state, rather than a reactor to circumstances, you literally become the creator of your experience rather than its product. In our next chapter, we'll explore how to harmonize the various planes of your being, mental, emotional, and physical, to create coherent, accelerated manifestations through the law of correspondence. Chapter 6. Harmonizing planes. Connecting the mental, emotional, and physical. In our exploration of the law of correspondence thus far, we've examined the fundamentals of as within, so without, delved into the inner landscape, learned to decode external reflections, worked with shifting our inner blueprint, and mastered emotional resonance. Now we arrive at a crucial aspect of effective manifestation, the harmonization of the various planes of your being to create coherent, powerful reflections in your external reality. The multidimensional nature of being. According to ancient Hermetic wisdom, human existence operates simultaneously across multiple planes or dimensions, each with distinct characteristics, yet all interconnected through correspondence. The Kybalion tells us that, while all is in the all, it is equally true that the all is in all. This principle reveals the holographic nature of existence. Each plane contains and reflects all others, with different aspects of your being operating across these interconnected dimensions. For our practical work with the law of correspondence, we'll focus on 4 primary planes: the mental plane, the realm of thought, conceptualization, belief, and intellectual understanding. This plane contains your conscious mind with its analytical capabilities, as well as your subconscious with its vast repository of memories, associations, and automatic programs. The emotional plane, the dimension of feeling, desire, and energetic resonance. This plane encompasses the full spectrum of human emotions, from the densest to the most expansive, and determines the magnetic power of your manifestations. The physical plane, the most tangible dimension, including your physical body with its sensory apparatus, and the material world you perceive through those senses. This plane represents the ultimate output screen, displaying the combined results of activities on all planes. The ethereal plane, sometimes called the vital or energy plane, this subtle dimension mediates between the non-physical and physical aspects of your being. It contains your energy body with its chakras, meridians, and subtle fields that bridge consciousness and form. While Western thinking tends to compartmentalize these dimensions, treating them as separate systems, Hermetic understanding recognizes them as interpenetrating aspects of a unified whole, different frequencies of the same fundamental reality. Just as water can exist as ice, liquid, or vapor, depending on its vibrational state, consciousness manifests across these planes at different rates of vibration while maintaining its essential nature. The necessity of harmonic alignment. The effectiveness of your work with the law of correspondence depends directly on the degree of harmony between these planes of your being. When your thoughts, emotions, energetic patterns, and physical actions align coherently, your manifestation power increases exponentially. When these aspects operate at cross purposes or in contradiction to one another, they create interference patterns that dilute or neutralize your creative capacity. Consider these common examples of disharmony between planes. A person intellectually affirms abundance, mental plane, while feeling anxiety about finances, emotional plane, maintaining constricted breath patterns related to scarcity, ethereal plane, and physically hoarding resources, physical plane. An individual visualizes ideal health, mental plane, while feeling frustrated with their body, emotional plane, disrupting their energy flow through stress, ethereal plane, and engaging in unhealthy behaviors, physical plane. Someone conceptually desires a loving relationship, mental plane, while emotionally resonating with past hurts, emotional plane, maintaining protective energetic barriers around their heart, ethereal plane, and physically avoiding vulnerable connection, physical plane. In each case, the disharmony between planes creates contradictory vibrational signatures that generate confused, delayed, or partial manifestations. Different aspects of the person are essentially attempting to create different realities simultaneously, resulting in manifestations that reflect this internal conflict rather than any single intention. By contrast, when all planes align in harmony, thoughts support and clarify emotional states. Emotions energize and empower mental patterns. Energy flows smoothly to enliven both thought and feeling. Physical actions reinforce inner states rather than contradicting them. This alignment creates what might be called manifestation coherence, a state where all aspects of your being contribute to a singular creative intention, dramatically amplifying its reflection through correspondence. The principle of causation. Across planes. Understanding harmonic alignment requires recognizing the causal relationships between planes. The Hermetic principle of causation states that every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. When applied to the interaction between planes, this principle reveals a natural hierarchy of causation, a sequence through which creative influence typically flows. Mental, emotional. Thoughts and beliefs generate corresponding emotional responses. Change the thought, and the emotion naturally follows. Emotional, ethereal. Emotional states directly affect the energy body, opening or constricting specific centers and flows. The quality of emotion determines the pattern of energy movement. Ethereal, physical. Energy patterns ultimately manifest in physical form, affecting bodily states, behaviors, and material circumstances. Where energy flows, physical manifestation follows. This causal sequence explains why attempting to create change beginning at the physical level often produces limited or temporary results. Working against the natural flow of causation requires continuous effort against resistance. By contrast, initiating change at the mental level and allowing it to naturally flow through emotional and energetic dimensions into physical manifestation works with the causal current rather than against it. However, while causation generally moves from subtle to dense planes, feedback loops operate simultaneously in the opposite direction: physical, ethereal. Physical conditions and actions affect your energy patterns, either supporting or disrupting your vital flows. Ethereal, emotional. Energy patterns influence your emotional states, with balanced, open energy supporting expansive emotions and blocked energy contributing to dense emotional states. Emotional, mental. Emotional states color and direct your thinking, making certain thoughts more accessible or compelling based on your feeling state. These bidirectional influences create the possibility of initiating change from any plane, while recognizing that lasting transformation requires eventual alignment of all planes. A skilled practitioner of correspondence can enter the cycle at any point, though entering at more causal levels, mental, then emotional, typically produces more efficient and sustainable results. Identifying plane-specific patterns. Before attempting to harmonize the planes, you must first accurately identify your current patterns at each level. This diagnostic process reveals where specific disharmonies exist and what requires attention. For each plane, examine your typical patterns related to key life areas: relationships, prosperity, health, purpose, etc. Mental plane assessment. What are your predominant thoughts in this area? What beliefs do you hold about what's possible or appropriate? What expectations have you formed based on past experiences? What conceptual frameworks do you use to understand this aspect of life? How do you mentally narrate your experiences in this domain? Emotional plane assessment. What feelings typically arise when you focus on this area? What emotional states do you associate with past experiences in this domain? What desires or aversions do you feel related to this aspect of life? What is the qualitative tone of your emotional relationship with this subject? What emotional triggers consistently appear in this context? Ethereal plane assessment. What sensations of energy flow or blockage do you notice when contemplating this area? Which energy centers, chakras, feel open or constricted in relation to this subject? How does your breathing change when focusing on this life domain? What subtle body sensations accompany thoughts of this area? Where do you feel expansion or contraction in your energy field in this context? Physical plane assessment. What actions do you typically take regarding this life area? What physical conditions currently manifest in this domain? How does your body posture change when engaged with this subject? What physical environment have you created related to this aspect of life? What tangible resources do you allocate to this area? This assessment reveals the specific patterns operating at each plane and illuminates points of harmony or conflict between them. Often you'll discover that while one plane aligns with your conscious intentions, others maintain contradictory patterns that undermine your manifestation efforts. Techniques for harmonizing the planes. Once you've identified your plane-specific patterns, you can apply targeted techniques to create greater harmony between them. The following approaches address alignment between specific plane combinations: mental-emotional alignment, belief-emotion. Integration. Identify beliefs that contradict your desired emotional states. For each limiting belief, create an alternative perspective that naturally evokes your target emotion. Practice this new perspective while simultaneously generating the corresponding feeling state, creating a reinforcing loop between thought and emotion. Cognitive reframing. Consciously reinterpret challenging situations in ways that support empowering emotional responses. This doesn't involve denying reality, but choosing perspectives that highlight opportunities, learning, and growth potential rather than limitations or threats. Thought-feeling meditation. During meditation, observe the relationship between specific thoughts and their emotional effects. Notice how certain thought forms immediately generate corresponding emotional states. Develop the ability to select thoughts based on the feelings you wish to cultivate. Linguistic alignment. Carefully refine your internal and external language to support emotional states that align with your intentions. Replace phrases that evoke contradictory emotions, I have to, I should, I'll try, with expressions that generate empowering feelings, I choose to, I get to, I will. Emotional, ethereal alignment. Emotion energy scanning. When experiencing specific emotions, scan your body to identify their energetic signatures, where and how they manifest in your energy system. This awareness allows you to work directly with the ethereal patterns underlying emotional states. Breathwork for emotional integration. Develop breathing patterns that support specific emotional states, typically deep, slow breathing for calm and centered emotions, rhythmic, flowing breath for joyful, expansive states. Use breath consciously to shift energy patterns that maintain limiting emotions. Emotional energy clearing. For emotions that create disharmony with your intentions, practice moving the associated energy through and out of your system. This might involve visualization, sound, movement, or specific energy practices that transform constricted emotional patterns into flowing vitality. Chakra harmonization. Work specifically with the energy centers most related to your manifestation goal. For prosperity, solar plexus and root chakras. For relationships, heart and sacral chakras. For self-expression, throat and third eye chakras. Balance and activate these centers to support corresponding emotional states. Ethereal physical alignment. Embodiment practices. Develop movement patterns that express and reinforce your desired energy states. Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, dance, and similar practices create coherence between your ethereal patterns and physical expression. Space harmonization. Organize your physical environment to support your energetic intentions. Apply principles of sacred geometry, color theory, and energetic arrangement to create spaces that reinforce rather than contradict your subtle body pattern. Symbolic physical actions. Engage in physical activities that symbolically represent your manifestation goals, creating bridges between ethereal intention and material expression. These ritual-like actions align your physical plane with subtle energetic patterns. Somatic release work. Address physical tensions and constrictions that block the flow of energy from ethereal to physical expression. Various bodywork modalities, tension release exercises, and movement therapies support this alignment. Full four-plane alignment, vertical alignment. Meditation. Practice a top-down meditation that sequentially aligns all planes. Begin with clear conceptualization, mental. Generate corresponding emotion, emotional. Allow that emotion to create specific energy patterns, ethereal, and finally feel those patterns expressing through your physical body and environment. Physical. Creation sequences. Design manifestation practices that intentionally move through all planes in order, starting with mental clarity, building emotional resonance, cultivating energetic flow, and completing with physical action. This sequential approach honors the natural causal relationship between planes. Congruence. Auditing. Regularly examine all four planes for contradictions or misalignments related to specific manifestation goals. When incongruence is discovered, address it beginning at the most causal level, typically mental or emotional, and allow the adjustments to flow through to more tangible planes. Symbolic alignment rituals. Create personalized rituals that simultaneously engage all four planes around specific intentions. These might involve visualization, mental, evocative music, or practices that generate specific emotions, emotional, energy movement techniques, ethereal, and symbolic physical actions, physical. Signs of harmonic alignment. As you develop greater harmony between the planes of your being, several indicators reveal your progress. Effortless flow. When the planes align, manifestation feels more like allowing than forcing. Actions flow naturally from energy states, which emerge organically from emotions, which arise effortlessly from thoughts. Synchronistic acceleration. External reflections appear with remarkable timing and relevance, often exceeding your specific expectations while perfectly matching your essential intention. Intuitive guidance. Clear, reliable intuitive prompts emerge naturally, guiding your next steps without struggle or confusion. This guidance represents the harmonized intelligence of all planes operating cohesively. Energetic efficiency. You accomplish more with less effort, as alignment reduces the energy typically lost to internal contradiction and resistance. Manifestation becomes more efficient and requires less force. Congruent feedback. External reflections display a consistent pattern rather than mixed or contradictory messages, indicating that your internal harmony is generating coherent external correspondence. Expanded time. Perception. Subjective experience of time often shifts, with manifestations appearing either with remarkable speed or with perfect timing that transcends your normal expectations of duration. Common challenges in plane harmonization. Several typical challenges arise when working to harmonize the various planes of your being. Understanding these challenges in advance allows you to address them skillfully rather than becoming discouraged by them. Plane-specific inertia. Each plane operates at a different rate of change. Mental patterns can shift almost instantaneously, while emotional patterns might require days or weeks to fully transform. Energy patterns might take weeks or months, and physical manifestations might require months or even years for complete expression. This differential creates the impression that alignment isn't working, when in fact it's simply expressing through natural timing differences. Subconscious resistance. Often the most significant disharmony exists between conscious and subconscious aspects of the same plane, rather than between different planes. Subconscious patterns formed early in life can contradict conscious intentions without your awareness, creating persistent misalignment despite sincere efforts. Holographic fragmentation. Different life areas may maintain different degrees of alignment. You might achieve beautiful harmony regarding your health while maintaining significant disharmony around prosperity, creating inconsistent results that confuse your understanding of the process. Environmental entrainment. External influences, cultural conditioning, relationship dynamics, collective thought fields exert continuous pressure on your personal alignment. Without conscious management of these influences, they can disrupt your harmony and pull different planes into contradictory patterns. Attachment to process. Paradoxically, intense focus on perfect alignment can create the very tension and effort that disrupts natural harmony. The mental plane becomes overactive, analyzing and judging the process rather than allowing it to unfold organically. Advanced harmonization. The unified field state. As you develop greater mastery of plane alignment, you'll discover that the most powerful state transcends the perception of separate planes entirely. This advanced state might be called the unified field consciousness, a condition where you perceive and operate from the underlying unity from which all planes emerge. In this unified state, thought doesn't create emotion. Rather, both emerge as different expressions of the same essential impulse. Energy doesn't follow emotion. They appear as simultaneous aspects of a singular movement of consciousness. Physical manifestation doesn't result from the previous stages, but emerges concurrently as the densest expression of the unified field. This non-linear understanding represents the esoteric heart of Hermetic manifestation as expressed in the Kybalion statement, "The all is mind, the universe is mental." From the highest perspective, all planes are simply different vibrational expressions of the same fundamental mind stuff, differing in frequency but not in essential nature. The masters of manifestation ultimately operate from this unified perspective, transcending the sequential process necessary during earlier stages of development. Their thoughts, emotions, energies, and actions emerge as a unified expression of being, creating extraordinary manifestation power through perfect coherence. While this unified field state represents an advanced attainment, glimpses of it occur naturally during moments of profound alignment. These experiences, often described as flow states, peak experiences, or moments of grace, reveal the potential for manifestation beyond the mechanics of plane-by-plane alignment. Practical plane harmonization. Exercise to immediately begin harmonizing the planes of your being. Engage in this comprehensive practice. Select a manifestation focus. Choose a specific area where you desire to create change through correspondence. Define your intention in clear, positive terms. 4-plane assessment. For this intention, document your current patterns at each plane. Mental, record your thoughts, beliefs, and concepts related to this intention. Emotional, identify your feelings, desires, and emotional patterns in this area. Ethereal, note your energy patterns, sensations, and subtle body responses. Physical, document your actions, circumstances, and tangible expressions. Identify disharmonies. Compare your patterns across all 4 planes, noting specifically where they contradict or undermine one another. Which planes align with your intention and which do not. Design your harmonization practice. Create a daily alignment ritual that addresses all 4 planes sequentially. Begin with mental clarification, affirming beliefs that support your intention. Generate the emotional state that corresponds with fulfillment of your intention. Circulate this energy through your subtle body, focusing on relevant centers, complete with symbolic physical actions that express your intention in form. Environmental support. Modify your physical environment to reinforce your harmonized state, removing objects or influences that trigger disharmony and adding elements that support alignment. Daily congruence. Check. Each evening, review your day across all 4 planes, noting moments of alignment and disharmony. For disharmonious moments, identify which plane initiated the misalignment and how it affected the others. Progressive refinement. As you practice, notice which planes tend to fall out of alignment most easily and develop specific techniques to address your particular pattern of disharmony. Commit to this practice for at least 28 days, the approximate lunar cycle and a natural period for working with subtle energies. During this time, focus more on the quality of your internal harmony than on external results, recognizing that correspondence operates with perfect precision, but sometimes with timing that transcends linear expectations. As you develop greater harmony between the planes of your being, you'll discover that manifestation becomes less about forcing specific outcomes and more about allowing the natural expression of your coherent consciousness through all dimensions of your experience. This harmonic alignment represents the most efficient and powerful application of the law of correspondence, creating external reflections that precisely mirror the unified intelligence of your whole being. In our next chapter, we'll explore the practical application of all these principles, examining specific techniques for using the law of correspondence to address common life challenges and manifest desired experiences across various domains of life. Chapter 7. Practical application. Using correspondence for manifestation and problem solving. Having explored the theoretical foundations of the law of correspondence and the methods for harmonizing your inner landscape, we now turn to the practical application of these principles in daily life. This chapter bridges philosophy and practice, providing specific techniques for using correspondence to manifest desired experiences and solve persistent problems across all domains of life. The ancient Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, as within, so without, becomes not merely a philosophical concept, but a practical tool for conscious creation and transformation. The practitioner's mindset. Before examining specific applications, let us consider the optimal mindset for working effectively with the law of correspondence. The skilled practitioner approaches this work with several key attitudes. Experimental consciousness. Rather than rigid certainty or blind faith, maintain the perspective of a scientist, forming clear hypotheses, testing them through deliberate inner changes, and objectively observing the resulting external reflections. This experimental approach prevents dogmatism while building empirical understanding of how correspondence operates in your specific life. Process orientation. Focus more on the quality of your practice than on immediate results. Understanding that manifestation often unfolds through natural stages, rather than instant transformations, allows you to maintain consistent effort without the discouragement that comes from attachment to specific timelines. Compassionate objectivity. Observe both your inner states and their outer reflections with kind awareness rather than harsh judgment. This compassionate objectivity creates the emotional space necessary for authentic transformation, rather than superficial behavioral modification. Playful seriousness. Approach correspondence. Work with the paradoxical attitude of serious play, recognizing its profound implications while maintaining the creative lightness that accelerates manifestation. Too much gravity creates energetic density that slows the manifestation process. Integrated pragmatism. Balance metaphysical understanding with practical action. The most effective application of correspondence integrates inner transformation with appropriate external steps, rather than relying exclusively on either internal or external approaches. With this foundational mindset established, we can explore specific applications across various life domains. Correspondence in relationship manifestation. Relationships perhaps demonstrate the law of correspondence more visibly than any other life domain. The precise reflection of your relationship with yourself appears in your connections with others, offering both illumination about your inner state and opportunities for transformation through conscious application of correspondence principles. Specific techniques for relationship manifestation. Self-relationship inventory. Before attempting to manifest specific relationships, thoroughly examine your relationship with yourself. How do you speak to yourself? What aspects of yourself do you reject or judge? What needs do you expect others to meet that you don't fulfill for yourself? This inventory reveals exactly what will manifest in your external relationships through correspondence. Inner relationship dialogue. Establish a daily practice of conscious communication with the aspects of yourself that correspond to challenging relationship patterns. If you feel unsupported by others, dialogue with the part of you that doesn't support your own needs and desires. If you attract criticism, converse with your inner critic. This dialogue creates integration that naturally reflects in harmonized external relationships. Relationship blueprint. Revision. Consciously design the inner relationship template you wish to experience externally. Define not just the qualities you desire in others, but more importantly, the qualities you commit to embodying. Create detailed visualization sequences that establish this template emotionally and energetically, focusing particularly on how you show up in relationships rather than just what you receive. Mirroring pattern. Interruption. When triggered in relationships, practice immediate recognition that you're experiencing a reflection of some aspect of your consciousness. Rather than reacting to the other person, turn attention to the corresponding pattern within yourself. Ask, what aspect of me is being shown to me through this interaction? This interrupts the reactive cycle while creating space for transformation. Relationship field. Harmonization. Before important interactions, consciously establish the energetic field you wish to experience. Through visualization, emotional resonance, and subtle energy practices, create the vibrational environment that corresponds to your desired relationship quality. Maintain this field regardless of initial external responses, recognizing that consistent inner harmony eventually generates corresponding outer harmony. Case study: relationship transformation. Consider the example of Sophia, who consistently attracted partners who were emotionally unavailable and unresponsive to her needs. Through correspondence work, she realized these relationships perfectly reflected her relationship with her own emotions. She habitually dismissed her feelings, made herself emotionally unavailable to herself, and failed to respond to her own emotional needs. Sophia began a daily practice of emotional self-attunement, spending time each morning identifying and responding compassionately to her own emotional states. She established healthy emotional boundaries with herself, no longer dismissing feelings as too much or inappropriate. She practiced emotional presence, staying with difficult feelings rather than distracting herself or intellectualizing them. Within 3 months, she noticed her existing relationships beginning to shift. Friends and family became more emotionally responsive and attentive. Within 6 months, she met a partner whose emotional availability and responsiveness matched her new relationship with herself. The external transformation directly corresponded to her inner shift, not through manipulation of others, but through the natural operation of the law of correspondence. Correspondence in financial manifestation. Financial circumstances provide particularly clear reflections of your consciousness regarding value, abundance, receiving, and worthiness. The exact patterns of your financial reality, whether of lack or abundance, struggle or ease, feast or famine cycles, precisely mirror your inner relationship with these principles. Specific techniques for financial manifestation. Value consciousness. Alignment. Examine your inner sense of value, both self-value and your perception of value in the world. Notice whether you habitually devalue your contributions, time, skills, or presence. Practice consciously recognizing and affirming value in yourself and your environment, developing the value recognition muscle that naturally attracts financial abundance through correspondence. Prosperity field generation. Establish daily practices that generate the feeling state of prosperity regardless of current financial circumstances. This might involve gratitude for existing resources, appreciation of non-monetary abundance, or visualization of financial ease. The key lies in generating the actual feeling of prosperous living rather than focusing on the absence of money. Receiving circuit completion. Many people maintain subconscious blocks around receiving while focusing exclusively on giving. Examine your comfort with receiving compliments, gifts, support, opportunities, and money. Practice receiving graciously in small ways daily, noting any discomfort or resistance. As your receiving circuit completes internally, your financial reality reflects this completion through increased inflow. Money relationship healing. Conduct a thorough inventory of your relationship with money itself. What emotions arise around money? What beliefs did you inherit about wealth and those who possess it? What early experiences shaped your money patterns? Create specific healing interventions for any wounds or distortions in this relationship, treating money as an actual relationship rather than merely a resource. Wealth identity. Integration. Many financial limitations reflect conflicts between conscious desires for abundance and subconscious identity structures incompatible with wealth. Systematically identify and transform aspects of identity tied to struggle or scarcity. This involves both releasing limiting identities and consciously cultivating a self-concept naturally aligned with prosperity. Case study. Financial transformation. Consider Marcus, who despite considerable professional skills, remained in persistent financial struggle, always just managing to cover expenses with little remaining. Through correspondence work, he discovered that his financial pattern precisely reflected his breathing pattern. He habitually inhaled just enough oxygen to survive, but never allowed a full, expansive breath. This breathing pattern itself corresponded to a deeper belief that emerged in childhood. Taking more than you absolutely need is selfish and wrong. This belief created a subtle but persistent pattern of self-limitation that manifested precisely in his financial circumstances. Marcus began a daily practice of conscious, expansive breathing, physically repatterning his relationship with receiving and abundance. He combined this with belief transformation work, specifically addressing his concerns about the ethics of prosperity. He developed a new, ecological understanding of abundance as something that flows through him to benefit others, rather than something he hoards at others' expense. Within 2 months, he began receiving unexpected income opportunities. Within 6 months, his financial situation had transformed completely, not through radical external changes in his career, but through an expanded capacity to receive the abundance that was previously available, but subconsciously rejected. His outer financial circumstances reflected with perfect precision his inner transformation. Correspondence in health. Manifestation. Physical well-being offers perhaps the most intimate demonstration of the law of correspondence, with the body faithfully reflecting states of consciousness through its functioning, symptoms, and overall condition. This close connection between mind and body provides powerful opportunities for healing and vitality enhancement through conscious application of correspondence principles. Specific techniques for health manifestation. Symbolic symptom. Dialogue. When physical symptoms appear, rather than immediately suppressing them, engage in conscious dialogue with their symbolic meaning. Ask what message the symptom carries about your mental emotional state or life circumstances. Journal the insights that emerge, looking for the precise correspondence between the physical manifestation and your consciousness. Body region consciousness. Different body regions correspond to different aspects of consciousness. Upper body with expression and authority, middle region with processing and emotion, lower body with security and foundation. Work specifically with the consciousness corresponding to any area experiencing physical challenges, recognizing that physical harmony follows naturally from psychological and emotional harmony in the corresponding aspect. Vitality field resonance. Rather than focusing directly on specific health outcomes, cultivate the overall feeling state of vitality, aliveness, and well-being. Through visualization, emotional resonance, and energy practices, generate the vibrational signature of robust health. Maintain this field consistently, recognizing that the body naturally organizes toward the energetic pattern you consistently establish. Integration of rejected aspects. Physical symptoms often reflect aspects of self or experience that have been rejected, suppressed, or denied expression. Identify what parts of yourself or your life might be seeking acknowledgement through physical means. As you consciously integrate these aspects, the physical need to express them through symptoms often resolves naturally. Health identity. Embodiment. Consciously cultivate a health identity rather than a disease or limitation identity. Notice how language, attention, and thought patterns might reinforce a self-concept organized around limitation, my bad back, my weak immune system, and systematically shift to language and focus that embody robust well-being as your natural state. Case study, health transformation. Consider Elena, who experienced chronic throat and upper respiratory issues that persisted despite various medical interventions. Through correspondence work, she recognized these symptoms reflected her consistently suppressed self-expression, particularly around speaking difficult truths in her close relationships and professional life. Elena began a daily practice of expressive writing, allowing herself to articulate thoughts and feelings she had previously censored. She established a truth-telling protocol with trusted friends, gradually expanding her capacity to express authentically. She worked specifically with the energy of her throat chakra through visualization, sound practices, and conscious breathing. Within weeks, her chronic symptoms began to diminish. Within 3 months, her respiratory system functioned normally for the first time in years. This healing occurred not through direct manipulation of physical symptoms, but through transformation of the corresponding aspect of consciousness. As her self-expression flowed freely, her physical systems naturally reflected this harmony. Correspondence as problem-solving methodology. Beyond specific life domains, the Law of Correspondence offers a comprehensive methodology for addressing any persistent challenge or desired creation. This systematic approach transforms problems from obstacles to opportunities for consciousness evolution. The Correspondence Problem-Solving Protocol. Precise problem definition. Define the external situation exactly as it appears, without interpretation or judgment. What specifically is occurring in your external reality that you wish to transform? Pattern recognition. Identify whether this situation represents an isolated incident or a recurring pattern. Recurring patterns indicate stable elements in your consciousness being faithfully reflected, while isolated incidents might reflect temporary states or specific triggers. Correspondence identification. Ask what aspect of your consciousness might generate precisely this external reflection. Consider beliefs, thoughts, emotions, energetic patterns, and physical behaviors that correspond to the situation. Look for the exact inner equivalent of the outer circumstance. Depth calibration. Determine the causal level at which the correspondence originates. Surface problems may reflect surface thoughts, while persistent significant challenges typically reflect deeper beliefs or identity structures. This calibration determines the depth of inner work required. Transformation. Design. Create a specific practice to transform the identified aspect of consciousness. This might involve belief work, emotional processing, energy clearing, visualization, embodiment practices, or external actions that reinforce new internal patterns. Reflection, monitoring. As you implement your transformation practice, observe external reality for signs of shifting reflection. Note both obvious changes and subtle shifts that indicate movement in the field. These reflections provide feedback about the effectiveness of your inner work. Refinement and persistence. Based on the reflections observed, refine your approach as needed. If external changes appear minimal, either more time is required for manifestation or your correspondence identification needs adjustment. Persist with the refined practice until clear external transformation occurs. Advanced application, simultaneous transformation. As you develop mastery with correspondence principles, you can work simultaneously from both inner and outer approaches, creating accelerated transformation through what might be called bidirectional causation. This advanced application recognizes that while inner change naturally generates outer reflection, deliberately acting in alignment with desired outcomes can reinforce inner transformation. This simultaneous approach involves inner-outer congruence. Ensure that external actions align perfectly with the inner state you're cultivating. Rather than forcing behaviors that contradict your current consciousness, design actions that authentically express the emerging aspects of your consciousness, while gently stretching beyond current limitations. Physical anchoring. Use physical items, environments, or rituals as tangible anchors for new patterns of consciousness. These physical elements provide constant reminders and reinforcement of the internal changes you're establishing. Social reinforcement. Carefully select environments and relationships that reflect and reinforce your desired state, rather than pulling you back into old patterns. This social context creates a field effect that supports your transformation through constant exposure to the frequencies you wish to embody. Interval training. Alternate between periods of intensive inner focus and periods of external implementation. This creates a rhythmic pattern that honors both the introspection necessary for deep change and the action necessary for manifestation. This simultaneous transformation approach recognizes that consciousness and form exist in a continuous feedback loop. While the inner ultimately determines the outer through correspondence, the relationship functions as a dynamic system rather than a linear, one-way causation. Practical integration. Daily correspondence. Practice. To integrate these principles into everyday life, establish a comprehensive daily practice that systematically applies the law of correspondence to ongoing creation and problem solving. Morning practice, 20 to 30 minutes. Consciousness, calibration. Begin with a brief meditation to observe your current mental, emotional, and energetic state without judgment. This awareness establishes your starting point for conscious transformation. Intention setting. Define 1 to 3 specific aspects of consciousness you intend to cultivate today, focusing on qualities that correspond to your desired experiences. Frame these positively as states you're embodying rather than states you're avoiding. Vibration generation. Through visualization, emotional resonance practices, breathing, or movement, generate the specific vibrational signature of your intended state. Intensify this state until it feels tangibly present in your body and energy field. Carried image. Create a specific mental image that represents your intended state of being. This should be simple enough to recall easily throughout the day, yet vivid enough to evoke the corresponding feeling state when remembered. Physical anchoring. Perform a specific physical gesture or touch a particular object while in your generated state, creating a neurological link between the physical trigger and the consciousness state. This anchor can then be activated throughout the day to restore your intended state. Throughout the day, brief interventions, hourly check-ins. Set a subtle alarm or use natural transitions between activities to check your current state of consciousness. Has it drifted from your morning intention? If so, use your anchor to reset your vibration quickly. Reflection. Awareness. Maintain heightened awareness of how your external circumstances reflect your internal state throughout the day. Note particularly clear correspondences in a small notebook or digital app for later review. Trigger response. When challenging situations arise, immediately recognize them as reflections rather than random events. Before reacting, ask, what aspect of my consciousness might this situation reflect? This creates response space and learning opportunity. Course correction. If you notice your state has significantly shifted away from your intention, take 2 to 3 minutes for a brief reset practice. This might involve stepping away, conscious breathing, reactivating your anchor, or silently reaffirming your intended state. Evening practice, 15-20 minutes. Reflection, review. Examine the day's external experiences, noting specific reflections of your consciousness states. Which experiences clearly mirrored your intentional state? Which revealed unconscious patterns requiring attention? Correspondence journaling. Document particularly significant reflections and the consciousness states they appeared to correspond with. Over time, this journal reveals your personal correspondence patterns with increasing clarity. Pattern transformation. Select one significant reflection from the day that revealed an aspect of consciousness you wish to transform. Design a specific visualization or energy practice to initiate this transformation before sleep. Sleep programming. As you prepare for sleep, clearly formulate an intention for your subconscious to continue harmonizing your consciousness toward your desired state during sleep. The theta and delta brainwave states of deep sleep provide ideal conditions for deep pattern reconfiguration. This daily practice establishes correspondence work not as an occasional intervention, but as a continuous way of engaging with reality. Through consistent application, you develop increasing fluency in both reading the reflections of your consciousness and deliberately shifting those reflections through inner transformation. Challenges and troubleshooting. As you implement these practical applications, certain challenges commonly arise. Understanding these in advance allows you to navigate them skillfully rather than becoming discouraged by them. Manifestation lag. Sometimes inner changes don't immediately generate corresponding outer changes, creating the impression that the principle isn't working. This delay typically reflects either the momentum of existing physical conditions or the presence of contradictory subconscious patterns. Maintain your practice while investigating deeper aspects that might require alignment. Partial manifestation. Often new patterns manifest partially or incompletely, showing aspects of your desired reality mixed with elements of old patterns. This usually indicates partial inner alignment, with some aspects of consciousness transformed while others maintain previous configurations. Use these partial manifestations as diagnostic tools to identify what remains to be aligned. Manifestation distortion. Sometimes manifestations appear in unexpected forms that contain the essence of your intention, but express it differently than anticipated. This typically reflects either rigid expectations about how your intention should manifest, or incomplete specification of your desired state. Practice flexibility in recognizing fulfillment even when it differs from your expected form. Intensification before transformation. Frequently, challenging patterns briefly intensify just before transforming, creating what might be called a healing crisis in consciousness. This intensification represents the system bringing full awareness to the pattern before its resolution rather than a sign of failure or regression. Continue your practice with the understanding that this intensification often precedes breakthrough. Conflicting intentions. Sometimes correspondence work fails to generate clear results because of conflicting conscious or subconscious intentions. Part of you seeks one outcome, while another part desires something different, creating confused reflections. When this occurs, inner dialogue and integration work between the conflicting aspects takes precedence over external manifestation efforts. By anticipating these common challenges, you avoid the discouragement that often leads people to abandon correspondence work prematurely. Each challenge represents not a failure of the principle, but an opportunity for deeper understanding of its operation in your specific consciousness system. Ethical considerations in correspondence. work. As you develop skill with these powerful principles, certain ethical considerations naturally arise. The Hermetic tradition has always emphasized that power requires corresponding wisdom and responsibility. Consider these ethical dimensions of correspondence work. Interconnected manifestation. Recognize that all manifestation occurs within an interconnected field where your creations inevitably affect others. This doesn't mean limiting your manifestations out of fear, but rather considering their systemic impact and intending benefit to the greater whole through your personal fulfillment. Manipulation versus alignment. Distinguish clearly between attempting to manipulate others through correspondence principles, which violates free will and creates karmic entanglement, and creating internal alignment that naturally attracts resonant experiences, which honors universal law and others' autonomy. Responsibility assignment. Avoid using correspondence principles to assign simplistic blame for challenging circumstances, especially regarding others' suffering. While consciousness does create through correspondence, the mechanisms are complex, multi-lifetime, and often involve collective patterns beyond individual control. Balanced perspective. Maintain balance between recognizing your creative power through correspondence and acknowledging the larger cosmic intelligence within which this creation occurs. The most effective manifestation involves partnership with universal intelligence rather than attempting to impose personal will upon it. Spiritual bypassing awareness. Ensure that correspondence work doesn't become a form of spiritual bypassing, using metaphysical principles to avoid addressing psychological wounds, systemic injustice, or necessary practical action. Authentic application integrates spiritual understanding with psychological healing and appropriate external engagement. These ethical considerations don't limit your creative power, but rather ensure its expression in ways that contribute to both personal fulfillment and collective evolution. The most powerful creators understand that sustainable manifestation occurs within a larger context of universal harmony. Conclusion. Living the law of correspondence. As we conclude this exploration of practical applications, remember that the law of correspondence represents not merely a manifestation technique, but a fundamental description of how reality functions. Your external world will always reflect your internal state with perfect precision, whether or not you consciously engage with this principle. The choice is not whether to participate in correspondence. As consciousness in form, you are always creating through this law, but whether to do so consciously or unconsciously, deliberately or by default. Conscious application transforms you from an unwitting receiver of seemingly random circumstances to a deliberate creator of experiences aligned with your highest intentions. With consistent practice, correspondence work becomes less a set of techniques and more a continuous way of being, a perpetual dialogue between your consciousness and the universe that reflects it. This ongoing conversation becomes increasingly subtle and sophisticated as you develop fluency in both the language of internal states and their external reflections. Ultimate mastery of correspondence transcends the duality between inner and outer entirely, revealing them as simultaneous expressions of a unified field of consciousness. From this realized perspective, the question shifts from "how do I change my reality?" to "how is reality revealing itself through this unique expression of consciousness I call myself?" This shift represents the transition from using the law of correspondence to embodying it completely. Let this understanding inform your practice as you apply these principles in daily life. Begin with the specific techniques outlined here, but remain open to the wisdom that emerges through your direct experience of correspondence in action. The universe will prove itself the most eloquent teacher of its own laws, revealing through your life the perfect correspondence between consciousness and form that underlies all creation. Conclusion. Living in conscious awareness of the inner-outer connection. Throughout this exploration of the law of correspondence, we have journeyed deep into one of the most profound and practical metaphysical principles governing our reality. From the ancient Hermetic axiom, "as above, so below, as within, so without," we have uncovered a fundamental truth that transforms our understanding of both ourselves and the world we experience. The external is always a faithful reflection of the internal. The universal law revealed, the law of correspondence, reveals itself as not merely a philosophical concept, but a precise operating principle of reality, as consistent and reliable as gravity. Just as the law of gravity functions, whether we understand or acknowledge it, this universal principle shapes our experience regardless of our awareness of it. The difference lies in what becomes possible when we consciously align with, rather than unconsciously contradict its operation. Through our exploration, we have discovered several crucial aspects of this principle. First, that our inner landscape, comprising thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and energetic patterns, forms a complex blueprint that the universe faithfully renders in physical form through the law of correspondence. Nothing in our external experience is random or disconnected from this inner template. Each circumstance, relationship, and condition precisely reflects some aspect of our consciousness. Second, that this reflection operates across multiple levels simultaneously. Thoughts correspond to perceptions, emotions correspond to experiences, beliefs correspond to persistent conditions, and identity structures correspond to our overall life pattern. The correspondence is holographic, with each part containing and reflecting the whole while emphasizing specific aspects based on its nature. Third, that this mirroring process functions not as judgment or reward, but as a natural principle of resonance, like frequencies attracting like frequencies through the fundamental vibrational nature of reality. Our consciousness generates specific frequencies that inevitably attract corresponding external expressions through this resonant attraction. Fourth, that mastery of this principle involves not merely understanding it intellectually, but developing practical skills for both reading the reflections accurately and deliberately shifting the inner states that generate them. This mastery transforms us from unconscious creators, reacting to seemingly random circumstances, to conscious architects deliberately designing our experience from the inside out. The transformative journey. The journey through these pages has been not merely informational, but transformational. We began by exploring the universe within, recognizing the vast, multidimensional inner landscape that generates our outer experience. We learn to decode the messages constantly provided by our environment, understanding them as precise feedback about our consciousness rather than random events. We developed specific techniques for shifting our inner blueprint, recognizing that changing ourselves represents the most direct and efficient path to changing our circumstances. We explored the particular power of emotional resonance, understanding how our feeling states generate the magnetic attraction that draws corresponding experiences into our lives. We discovered the importance of harmonizing the various planes of our being, mental, emotional, ethereal, and physical, creating coherent vibrations that manifest with clarity and power. And finally, we explored practical applications of these principles across various life domains, transforming the law of correspondence from abstract theory to lived experience. Throughout this journey, a profound shift has occurred. From perceiving ourselves as victims of circumstance to recognizing ourselves as creators of experience. This shift represents not merely a change in perspective, but a fundamental alteration in our relationship with reality itself. Where once we might have asked, "Why is this happening to me?" we now inquire, "What aspect of my consciousness is being reflected in this experience, and how can I transform it?" The order behind apparent chaos. Perhaps the most significant revelation offered by the law of correspondence is the recognition of perfect order behind the apparent chaos of life. What might seem random, unfair, or meaningless when viewed from ordinary awareness reveals itself as exquisitely meaningful and precisely orchestrated when understood through the lens of correspondence. This recognition does not eliminate life's challenges, but transforms our relationship with them. Each difficulty becomes not an obstacle to happiness, but a signpost pointing toward aspects of consciousness awaiting integration or transformation. Each challenge reveals itself as a precisely calibrated teacher, offering exactly the lessons our evolution requires at exactly the time we're prepared to learn them. The universe, operating through correspondence, functions not as an indifferent mechanism, but as an intelligent mirror, reflecting with perfect precision, yet also with perfect love. It shows us ourselves not to condemn, but to illuminate, not to limit, but to liberate. Through this reflection, we gain the self-knowledge essential for conscious evolution. The continuing journey. As you complete this book, recognize that you stand not at an ending, but at a beginning. The principles explored here reveal themselves more fully through lived application than through conceptual understanding alone. Each day offers countless opportunities to observe correspondence in action and to apply its principles for conscious creation. Begin simply. Notice the reflections present in your life right now. The exact correspondence between your habitual thoughts and your typical experiences, between your emotional patterns and your relationship dynamics, between your beliefs about possibility and the opportunities that appear or fail to appear in your life. Without judgment, recognize these reflections as perfect feedback rather than random circumstances. Let them reveal to you the aspects of your consciousness that create your current reality, showing you precisely what internal shifts would generate different external experiences. Then, with patience and persistence, begin the work of inner transformation, not fighting against external conditions, but creating new internal patterns that will naturally generate new reflections. Remember that while some manifestations occur quickly, others unfold through natural stages that honor the momentum of existing patterns and the time required for deep integration. Trust the process completely. The law of correspondence operates with mathematical precision, not sometimes but always, not partially but completely. When manifestations seem delayed or distorted, look not for flaws in the principle, but for aspects of your consciousness you may have overlooked, or for timing that serves your highest good rather than your immediate preferences. The invitation to mastery. As we conclude, recognize that the understanding offered in these pages carries both opportunity and responsibility. The opportunity lies in the unprecedented creative power that awakens when you align consciously with universal law. The responsibility involves using this power with wisdom, compassion, and awareness of our profound interconnection with all life. True mastery of correspondence comes not from manipulating reality to satisfy egoic desires, but from aligning your being so completely with universal principles that your desires themselves emerge from the same intelligence that governs all creation. In this alignment, you discover that what you truly want and what the universe is unfolding through you are not separate agendas, but the same movement expressed through your unique consciousness. This represents the ultimate invitation of the law of correspondence, not merely to create specific experiences, but to participate consciously in the creative process through which the universe knows and expresses itself. As within, so without. As above, so below. As you transform yourself, you transform your world, and in some mysterious yet tangible way, you participate in the transformation of all worlds. Let this understanding guide your practice as you continue beyond these pages. You are not separate from the universe, but a unique expression of its intelligence, not a visitor to reality, but a creator of it. Through your consciousness, the infinite explores finite expression. Through your experiences, the eternal knows itself in time. Walk forward in the clear recognition that your inner state creates your outer reality, not sometimes, but always, not partially, but completely. In this recognition lies not only the key to manifestation, but the doorway to freedom itself, the freedom that comes from knowing yourself as both the creator and the creation, both the mirror and the reflected image, both the individual self and the universal self that contains and transcends all individuality. This is the ultimate gift of the law of correspondence, not merely a new understanding of reality, but a transformed experience of yourself within it. Accept this gift with gratitude, apply it with wisdom, and watch as the mirror of your life reflects with ever-increasing clarity the beauty, power, and limitless potential of your awakening consciousness. After exploring this profound universal principle, I'm curious, what specific reflection in your outer world has most clearly revealed something about your inner state? Perhaps it was a recurring relationship pattern, a persistent financial situation, or even a physical symptom that perfectly mirrored something within you. Share your personal correspondence experience in the comments below. I'd love to see how this universal mirror has been revealing itself in your unique life journey. If you're ready to begin applying the law of correspondence today, start with this simple practice. For the next 7 days, when you encounter any challenging circumstance, pause before reacting and ask yourself, if this perfectly reflects some aspect of my consciousness, what might that aspect be? Then, spend just 5 minutes each morning generating the emotional state you wish to experience that day, not just thinking about it, but actually feeling it in your body as if it's already your reality. This small shift from external reaction to internal creation will begin transforming your reflections almost immediately. If this exploration of the universal law of correspondence has resonated with you, please support the channel by hitting that like button and subscribing for more metaphysical wisdom every week. Your comments help shape future content, so let me know what aspect of this principle you'd like me to explore more deeply. Next Monday, we'll be delving into the power of mind, where you'll discover how your thoughts create reality through the principle of mentalism. Don't miss it. I'll see you there.